Okay, well, it's a beautiful afternoon here. It's getting hot towards the Israeli summer, and I have the pleasure to talk to Jodie Gillon from BioConnecticut. Jodie, good morning, actually. Good afternoon.
Hi, great to meet you. Happy to be here.
Yes, and we sort of connected randomly on LinkedIn, I think, and Jodie probably didn't even know what I wanted from her. But the fact of the matter is that we this podcast, Life Sciences Today, has been taking off like wildfire. We were just talking about that. And we've done 5 in the past 2 weeks, and we have another 10 stacked up through the end of July. Yeah, so it's a lot of companies that are doing advanced stuff, a lot of tech bio companies, a lot of AI.
Mm.
Try to get some normal biotech companies in there as well. And I don't know what normal means today, but anyhow, some more traditional molecules and stuff. But seriously, when I saw your profile, I said, wait a minute, this is like a bit different from the people we usually talk to. And I want to talk to her because this is like I don't know what you call yourself, an industry association, I guess, right? Something like that.
We're a trade organization.
Trade
Yes.
organization, right? So that sort of intrigued me because it's something which there are trade organizations like this in Israel, and I don't know how you know I don't quite know exactly how they function. They seem like semi-government sponsored. I'm not quite sure. I never understood how this worked. I've been working in high tech and private sector in the past 10 years in clinical data management until I sold my company last year. So my understanding of public organization is very scanty. I have to admit. But it's a pleasure to have you on the show. And let's start with the first question, which is just tell me about your journey, how you ended up coming to Israel, coming back to New York, and then ending up leading this trade organization called BioConnecticut.
Sure, thank you. I'm an epidemiologist by training. I actually found my way when I was in college. I attended Georgetown University and I was an intern at the White House. And then also I was working at Georgetown Hospital. And it was during the time when the HIV pandemic really took off. And working in the hospital, back in the day, separate air ducts, the patients were dying, no options for them. And then I had the privilege of working at the Office of AIDS Policy at the White House under Donna Shalala. Really interesting time when that office was just formed, working on health prevention, education, awareness, and I kind of got the public health bug. And I also got the Israel bug. So I moved to Israel, did national service, and it created the first ever HIV advocacy group in Israel with some others there, and then also decided to study public health and epidemiology until an Israeli biotech moved me back to the US. And then I started my career. I've been in industry a good 25 years. I started at Novartis, transitioned to Pfizer. I went on to head AstraZeneca's chief medical office. And then I moved into the biotech sphere. A bunch of startups, a lot in rare diseases, so cell and gene therapy, also an AI startup, so hence, life sciences in general. And then 2 years ago, I transitioned to head BioCT, this trade organization.
Well, that's amazing. You have like a fantastic track record and experience, very wide, all the way from the White House to Connecticut. So you're in New York or you're in Connecticut?
I'm in Connecticut. So I had a Connecticut focused organization. I moved to Connecticut actually during COVID. I did this summer rental. I thought it would be 2 months. I kept extending and extending. And then 2 years ago, my son got into college in Connecticut, and I had this offer to head this Connecticut organization. So my whole entire life has become Connecticut focused.
Where do you live?
So currently in Norwalk, and we moved our headquarters to New Haven, actually. So there's a big conglomeration of the life sciences, biotech in New Haven, Connecticut.
Yeah, that much I know. Actually, I actually have a personal connection to Connecticut as well. My great uncle lived in New London, and his brother, so I suppose also my uncle, was the sheriff of New London. Now, can you imagine what that's like being a Jewish kid in elementary school and having an uncle who's a sheriff. I mean, it's like, that's amazing to have, right? And
I
my uncle,
actually spent time in New London and Groton. So when I worked at Pfizer, I used to come out. Pfizer is a big R&D and manufacturing facility. It's actually where they manufactured the COVID vaccine. So there's quite a history. Yep, right in Groton, New London. And we actually own and operate an incubator, BioCT does, in Groton that Pfizer donated the building to us.
so
So yes.
there's a connection. We went all the way around. It's like, two Jews, you'll always find a connection, don't they?
There's
Uh,
always one degree of separation. So
that's right. That's right. So yeah. So my uncle would say that New London is so small that you can't run in New London, because if you run in New London, you run right out of town.
I
And
feel like Connecticut's like a village. Like every time I leave the house, I bump into people. And being from Manhattan, it's atypical, but it's really nice here. And I think one of my favorite things about Connecticut is really our access to legislators. We can call, we can text. It's called the one phone call state. So, and it is true.
and you just run right out of town. So, but it's an advantage. I think it's a great advantage. I think always had a charm for me when I would come to visit them, and I have good memories from that time. So I'm glad that you're living that. Um, the question I always ask my guests is less of a biological question, but more of a business question, which is
Mhm.
how do you create value for your clients? In your case, your clients are the members of your trade organization. So how do you create value for them?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And it was the first thing I did when I inherited BioCT 2 years ago. So I was on the other side for a good, over 25 years. And I was the one always like giving the sponsorships, giving the grants, deciding those budgets and those partnerships. So for me, having that mindset from the industry perspective, what's the ROI for my organization, for patients? For our sector, for our disease areas, and kind of flipping the switch on the other side now. I'm always thinking about mission matched objectives. So we're a member-based organization. Membership's a hard sell in this day and age, with all the federal headwinds and the lifeline of our members being cut
Yeah.
right it's a really hard time. So if I think about, membership and value, it's always how does BioCT enable the goals of our member organizations in a really effective, efficient way where we execute together?
Right. And that's, I think, the right thing to do. And I think I love your focus on the member organizations. So many times I've had the impression, not in your case, but with government organizations I've come in contact with in Israel, was that they're more interested in their own fiefdoms and less interested in the companies, the organization they're supposed to support. So this is great that you have that focus. Um, so how do you capture value? So you create value for them. It's a membership model,
Mhm.
but you must be, do you have any kind of like, down upside on that value?
Like to demonstrate value to
Yeah.
our members. So yeah, I actually give myself a report card. We just finished legislative session in Connecticut last week. So if I think about it, we have a legislative agenda, and this is just one example because policy became our first priority. And the reason that policy became my first priority, it always goes back to the White House, right? Like the Office of AIDS policy and how do we prevent and build awareness and education and how does policy prevent disease? So we put out a legislative agenda and then we finished legislative session and we score ourselves. Which bills did we mitigate? Did we pass the good bills? Like we just got an R&D tax credit passed. Did we mitigate price controls? Did we manage, AI legislation in a way that doesn't stifle innovation? So I think that's just one example. When we go out, we put out an agenda and then we just finish legislative session and then we score ourselves and we publicly put out that report card. And I
That's
think that's a prime example of, how we demonstrate value and really just, in transparency, like what did we set out to accomplish and what did we actually accomplish?
that's really great. I love that a lot. And I think I wish more organizations I'm in contact with do that for themselves. It would certainly help. Um, So how many, companies? I assume it's like around biotech, and I saw something regarding digital health as well. And now a lot of people are talking about tech bio, which is like basically instead of biotech, it's like technology, more technology kind of focus and mindset. And so like how many organizations are in the trade organization?
Yeah, so even taking a step back, what is BioCT, to your listeners? So there's a national organization called BIO that focuses on federal issues. 46 states in the US have a state bio organization. We're all independent, we're all not-for-profit organizations. So I just celebrated my 2-year anniversary at BioCT this month. And I changed our mission. So we're now the Life Sciences Trade Organization for the state of Connecticut. And life sciences in the broadest terms. So we have all biopharma. So, Pfizer could be a member. Boehringer Ingelheim has their US headquarters in Connecticut. They're a member. So it could be big companies, but also med device. So Medtronic has a huge facility in North Haven. But 89% of our members are actually startups. I have nicknamed Connecticut the startup state. Universities like Yale and UConn, they're spinning out companies, right? They have these tech transfer offices, Yale Ventures. They're spinning out startups like at such a rapid pace, it's even hard to keep up. But it's really exciting how much is coming out of Connecticut. So we have all digital, real world evidence, AI. There's a huge focus on quantum now in the state of Connecticut too. And then we have universities, and then we have service providers, so law firms, accounting firms. And then we are the only state bio that also owns and operates incubators around the state. So we're also a landlord to these companies, or we have partnerships with other incubators around the state.
Well, so you're like huge. You're
We're
huge.
tiny. We're three FTEs. We have a few
But
contractors. I have an incredible board. So we have a 20-person board. Key organizations like Alexion, like Yale,
right.
Jackson Labs. And I'm very fortunate that our board, really contributes to the organization. And then we get very crafty. So partnering, with board organizations or co-hosted events. And then we're able to, put these organizations to work and mobilize their resources.
That's great. Are you able to these, well, you have your own incubators or accelerators, and you have also the stuff that's spinning out of the universities, the tech transfer program. So are you able to do some matchmaking between some big companies like Pfizer and say somebody who's doing something really interesting?
I feel like I'm matchmaking all day, every day. So I say we build a village around every person and every organization. There are a lot of people right now looking for jobs, interns looking for internships. It's a really, hard time, but there are companies. So, biotech, you ride the waves. So there could be a day that, one company lays off 92 people, but also, a biohaven gets $600 million the very same day. So it's all about, keeping that talent in the state of Connecticut. That's our main focus. And then making sure that we're matchmaking. Similarly, a lot of our companies need financing too. So constantly matchmaking in that regard. But then, in a bigger realm, we ran a program last year with Boehringer Ingelheim. We did something called office hours. So we ran an application process for them. They selected 4 companies, had them come in, pitch, consider partnerships and mentorship. So it could be, day to day where we're helping a student find an internship versus something, bigger where, we're running an official program for a large pharmaceutical company.
So it's all the way up from a student or a grad student looking for internship, all the way up to matchmaking between hot startups and big companies like Bering. Wow, so that's a
Thing,
pretty
companies
wide
have to.
span. Yeah.
It is. We can easily become all things to all people. So we're trying to do it as efficiently as possible. We just expanded our career portal too. So it's not just jobs anymore. We also have candidates. And we're trying to leverage technology now so things become more efficient.
Good. So I'm going to finish the interview. I asked one question. It's kind of like an interview question. They ask you in interviews, what do you want to be in 5 years, that kind of thing. But I want to ask you that. You've done so much already in your career, but it's like, what are three things you want to do in the next year?
Oh, well, I definitely want to grow the organization. I want to make sure that we're, financially, viable so that we can keep expanding our offerings. Like I'm having a great time, but always, we need to put our oxygen mask on too. And as we grow, we can better support the entire ecosystem in Connecticut. I think a personal passion for me is I entered the rare disease space a good decade ago. So I think about always ways that we can, efficiently and effectively immediately diagnose patients so that they don't have this diagnostic odyssey and leveraging, AI and quantum and technology to be able to do that. And then obviously, personal passion is, how do we have an effective treatment for all patients that we've diagnosed? So that's just something that's a personal interest to me.
I had actually for that period of time also, I'd been involved in a few years ago in a project with Alexion for PNH patients in Israel, which is a very, very small community. And it was a great idea. I would sort of like to create a community platform. We had done it in the past with MSD in Poland, and it was very successful. And then so the guys at Alexion said, "Oh, let's do this for PNH patients." And it was a great idea, except for one thing. It was just a very small group. And and they were like, how is this going to help me? And so it was I felt like it was kind of like from a technology perspective, the project was a success, creating a small private network where people could talk to physicians. But from a practical perspective, it didn't work. It sort of taught me a lesson that in rare diseases, you need to have certain minimum critical mass or you need to find another way to talk to patients. And maybe the human connection is really the first thing you need to do.
So another overlap for us, because I worked at Achillion Pharmaceuticals on PNH, which was
Ah,
by Alexion, ironically then bought by AstraZeneca, where I also work. So I had the privilege of also working, with PNH
so
community.
that's an interesting overlap. Yeah. Yeah. And someone was telling me last week about, oh, we didn't see how people can make money on rare diseases. I said, trust me, you
This
can't.
is why I made policy our first priority because we need incentives like the Orphan Cure Act to be able to focus and have pharmaceutical companies focus on rare diseases. And if the policy and fiscal incentives aren't in place, then companies are going to move away from those disease areas. So that's why I made policy BioCT's first priority.
And I think that that's a beautiful idea. And I think, starting on, or ending actually with this thought that PNH is such a small patient community, but it's people that really need it the most. And it's just been a pleasure. My name is Denny Lieberman. I'm the host of Life Sciences Today. We talk to people who are making changes in life science for life science companies. I'm here with Jodie Gillon, who's running BioCT with a lot of really amazing things going on and a huge span of control and influence. Um, Look for us. We'll publish in about 2 weeks, and then you'll be able to find us on all your favorite podcast channels like Spotify and Apple. Thank you so much, Jodie.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
It's a pleasure.